A deadly disease spread by cockroaches is claiming the lives of children across the city. Dr. Peter Mann, yes, that's actually his name. And honestly, with a name like Mann, you'd expect him to have more control over a bug outbreak, is the head of the CDC. Desperate for a solution, he turns to entomologist Susan Tyler for help. Susan visits the hospital and sees the infected children. She's visibly shaken, terrified by what she sees. In response, she creates a genetically modified insect called the Judas bug, a hybrid creature designed to accelerate cockroach metabolism, making them burn through energy so fast that they starve. And miraculously, it works. The cockroaches die off and the disease is eradicated. Peter and Susan hold a press conference to announce their success, and not long after, they get married. Because nothing says romance like bugs and bioengineering. Fast forward 3 years, a priest is seen running for his life, being pursued by something unseen. He dashes up to a terrace, but the creature smashes the door. With no way out, the priest jumps in desperation. Tragically, he doesn't survive the fall. A young boy named Chewy, nicknamed Chewy, witnesses this, but being a kid, he just shrugs it off. Meanwhile, the creature drags the priest's body down into the sewers like it's taking out the trash. Elsewhere, Peter and Susan are prepping for an insect exhibit. Peter gives Susan some herbal tonic to help with conception. Because when your idea of foreplay involves praying mantis facts, nothing sets the mood like herbal tea. Just as they're chatting, Peter gets a call to check out a crime scene involving undocumented immigrants with yellow fever. The site is connected to the dead priest's shady dealings. They also find some mystery fecal matter. On the ceiling, I mean. Who leaves poop on the ceiling? That's either a very agile raccoon or someone really misunderstood the term drop the bomb. Peter starts checking on the infected people, and one woman keeps ranting about a dark angel. Spooked, Peter orders a full quarantine. At Susan's lab, she talks to two teenagers who bring her a strange bug they found in the subway. She agrees to buy it out of curiosity. Later, while working with her assistant Remy, she hears movement from the cardboard box the kids left. When she opens it, surprise, it's a Judas bug, and not just any Judas bug, but a baby one. So apparently Susan's bugs didn't just come back, they brought snacks, made babies, and RSVP'd for round 2. The bug bites her, again, so she kills it with a pin. When it oozes white goo, she confirms it's her own creation. But her old research gives no clue why they're back. As she tries to process everything, a shadowy figure sneaks into her lab, snatches the bug, and knocks over her equipment. She hears a noise and glimpses a figure darting away through the window. That night, Chewie spots something weird near his building, but his caretaker Manny sees nothing. Later, Susan tells Peter that the bug was indeed a Judas bug, which shocks him, because these insects were designed to die out after one generation. Worse yet, this one was a baby, which means they've been breeding somewhere. Nature is looking at science and yelling, "You had one job." The next day, Peter and Susan meet the kids at a subway station. They explore an old maintenance room. Manny and Chewie tag along. Susan asks the teens about an egg sac, but they claim ignorance. While poking around, she finds a hidden hole behind a cabinet. As she reaches inside, something brushes against her arm. Right as it's about to chomp her, Officer Leonard shows up, and the group leaves. Later, Susan meets Chewie and Manny again. Chewie reveals he can identify people by the sound of their shoes, because apparently this kid is one squeak away from a Batman origin story. But before Susan can talk more, Officer Leonard demands they come back with a permit. Meanwhile, the teens find an egg sac. But as they try to open it, a massive insect appears and attacks. One of the kids gets impaled. The other doesn't fare much better. Meanwhile, Chewie hears strange noises in the quarantine building and ends up in the chapel. There, he sees a shadowy figure in an overcoat and another creature creeping closer. At a water treatment facility, workers pull what they think is a drowned child from the tanks. But upon closer inspection, they realize it's a giant Judith bug. Congratulations, city infrastructure. Your water's got extra protein now. Back at home, Susan is taking a pregnancy test. Just as she's waiting for the result, she gets called back to work for an emergency. Peter walks into the bathroom, and he and Susan anxiously stare at the pregnancy test results together. The result? Susan is pregnant. Instead of joy, there's a cloud over her face. Guess saving the world from mutant roaches doesn't prepare you for diaper duty. Dejected, she heads to work. At the water treatment plant, Susan arrives to check out the discovery. When she sees the gigantic Judith bug retrieved from the tanks, she's horrified. It's huge. Honestly, this thing could file taxes and run for office. Her friend takes photos of the monstrous insect while she tries not to puke. Meanwhile, Manny realizes Chewie is missing and guesses the kid may have wandered into this suspicious building next door. Because nothing screams child safety like active quarantine zone. At the same time, Peter, Josh, and Officer Leonard return to the train station. There, they find a gaping hole in the wall that could easily fit a whole SUV. They bring lab gear, ready to go full National Geographic on whatever's breeding down there. Peter tries calling Susan, but reception's terrible. They agree to meet at the station so she can update him. Meanwhile, Manny takes his bold self down into the sewer with nothing but a weird lighter. Someone tell him this isn't a horror movie audition. Elsewhere, Dr. Gates studies the giant bug and concludes it's not just a mutation, but part of a complex insect colony. Back underground, Peter and the gang find a room smeared with, you guessed it, roach poop, because clearly these bugs were raised by toddlers. Back at her lab, Susan aligns the bug's limbs in the photos and notices a skull-like shape creepy later. While standing alone on the platform, she sees a shadowy figure. Surprise. It's a giant Judith bug. She panics and bolts, but it grabs her and flies off like some nightmare Uber ride straight to hell. Peter and Josh keep collecting samples, while Leonard, ever the brave one, stands on an old platform. A smaller Judith bug scurries toward him, and Leonard, panicking like your uncle at a family reunion, smashes it. But in true karma fashion, the platform collapses and drops him. And Peter below, Josh is left up top, frozen like a deer in headlights. Leonard yells for him to get help, and Josh hesitates, because what's better than leaving two grown men dangling in bug hell? Eventually, he figures out he's the only option. Susan wakes up deep in the sewers, surrounded by corpses, including the priests. She grabs a metal pipe, because at this point, diplomacy's off the table. As she explores, she sees light above and people walking on the street. She screams for help, but instead of help, she attracts another giant bug. Classic. A bigger bug swoops in, and Susan, now a full-on bug slayer, impales it with her pipe and runs. Another bug chases her, but she manages to escape through a maintenance hole. Meanwhile, Josh stumbles across a room filled with Judas egg sacs. He spots one of the bugs and tries to tiptoe out, but ends up crashing through a platform like it's amateur hour. The noise wakes the bug. In a desperate scramble, he reaches for a rope, but the bug snatches him. Blood sprays as he's dragged away. This is what happens when your cardio is limited to elevator rides. Still in the sewers, Susan hears noise and looks up. Manny appears through the hole like a guardian angel with street smarts. Elsewhere, Peter and Leonard search the chasm, still hoping Josh returns. Manny shows up, updates them on Susan, and they race to save her. They reach Susan, but just as they're pulling her up, a light falls and reveals a bug flying toward them. They drag her out just in time, slam the lid shut, and run. Chased again, they retreat into an old train car. Leonard opens fire, unloading bullets like it's Independence Day. The bug wedges itself in the door, and Leonard keeps firing until it rips itself apart trying to squeeze through. Talk about a bad case of bug ambition. But it's not over. The half-dead bug crawls under a shelf, and Peter and Leonard try to yank it out. Leonard, in a classic I've learned nothing moment, lets his guard down. The bug lunges, slashing his leg. Leonard responds with more gunfire and finally kills the creepy crawler for good. The group locks themselves inside the train car. Peter tends to Leonard's leg, which is now somewhere between paper cut and zombie bite. Just then, they hear it. A swarm of Judas bugs charging toward them. Because obviously this nightmare wasn't intense enough, Susan quickly realizes that Leonard's blood is attracting the bugs. Thinking fast, she grabs the scent glands from the dead Judas bug and starts rubbing them all over the cabin like it's some kind of discount air freshener. She tells everyone to smear the glands into any cracks to mask Leonard's blood scent. Peter even applies some directly to Leonard's wounds, because nothing says medical care like bug juice. Soon enough, the Judas bugs lose interest and back off. Leonard, now apparently part explorer and part hoarder, digs up an old map of the train station and suggests there might be a way out. They'll need to switch the tracks and rewire a fuse box to get the train moving toward the nearest exit. Peter decides that he and Manny should head out. They coat themselves with the scent glands, because apparently Odie insect is in this season, and split up. Manny goes off in search of the track switch, while Peter heads for the fuse box. As Peter carefully makes his way down the tracks, he encounters a Judas bug. He freezes in place. Because clearly his plan was to play statue and hope for the best. Congrats, Peter. You've officially unlocked advanced possum mode. The bug steps right over him, and Peter quickly rubs on more bug cologne like he's at a nightclub for insects. Meanwhile, Manny continues looking for the track switch but instead finds Chewie. He tries to convince Chewie to come with him, but a Judas bug sneaks up and impales him through the chest. Manny, buddy, this is what you get for turning your back in a horror tunnel. You had one job. Chewie lets out a horrified scream as Manny dies. Back on Peter's side, he manages to get the fuse box running, and the lights flash on. Leonard jumps into action, activating the train's power. And it starts to move. Susan finds Chewie near the track switch, immediately realizing the danger, and takes him with her as they make their escape. The train, however, starts smoking like it's in desperate need of retirement. Peter meets back up with Susan and Chewie, and the three look for cover from the incoming swarm of bugs. Leonard, seeing the bugs approaching, pulls a hero move. He starts singing and lets himself bleed to distract them. Yes, Leonard's grand plan to survive is karaoke and bloodletting. He's officially lost it. The bugs rush toward him. With the path clear, Peter, Susan, and Chewie move toward the dumbwaiter. Susan and Chewie manage to climb in, but more bugs appear, separating Peter. He tries to pull the dumbwaiter up but is overwhelmed and forced to escape into a small tunnel. As Susan and Chewie ascend, one of the Judas bugs actually figures out how the dumbwaiter works. Yes, we now have problem-solving bugs, because this nightmare wasn't complicated enough. It begins cutting the cable, but Susan and Chewie make it out just in time. The cable snaps and the dumbwaiter crashes down, trapping the bugs below like a surprise extermination plan. Meanwhile, Peter ends up in the very heart of the Judas bug colony, their nest. He spots gas pipes lining the area and grabs an axe, smashing them open and letting flammable gas flood the tunnels. The bugs chasing him bust through a steel plate, getting dangerously close. In a last-ditch effort, Peter lights a lighter. The gas ignites, and the entire sewer system explodes in a fireball straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster. Above ground, the explosion blasts utility covers into the air, sets cars on fire, makes the ground tremble, and sends massive flames shooting out of the sewers. Peter really said bug problem? Just nuke the whole zip code. Susan slowly regains consciousness and spots Chewie nearby. But before she can even catch her breath, the fertile male Judas bug shows up, towering over them like it's the final boss in a bug horror game. Chewie, naturally, is terrified and just freezes in place. Seriously, Chewie? You're staring death in the face and decide your survival strategy is pretend you're a statue? Bold move, my guy, thinking fast. Susan wounds herself to draw the bug's attention, because apparently bleeding is the only language these nightmare insects understand. She lures it toward an oncoming train, sprinting ahead with the bug hot on her trail. At the very last second, she leaps out of the way, and the train slams into the bug, crushing it beneath its wheels like a big juicy cockroach pancake. That's right, Susan just solved the problem with 1 part bravery, 1 part blood, and 1 part public transportation. After the chaos, she finds Chewie again, and thankfully, he's still in one piece, though mentally, probably in 12. They're soon surrounded by firefighters, police officers, and medics rushing to handle the aftermath of the apocalyptic bug mess. Dr. Gates approaches Susan and tells her that all the Judas bugs have been exterminated. Well, except for the emotional trauma, that's going to stick around longer than Chewie's useless stare. Suddenly, Peter emerges from the subway exit like he's crawling out of a dramatic music video. The three of them, Susan, Peter, and Chewie, embrace in a heartfelt hug, overwhelmed with relief that the nightmare is finally over.